Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we're unpacking a highly controversial philosophy that tackles modern relationships from a very, very specific angle. The core claim here? That to actually thrive in the modern dating world, men have to master Stoic detachment to spark genuine attraction. We're going to break down exactly what that means, looking at these ideas totally objectively to see what's actually driving this mindset. The source material hooks us right out of the gate with this absolute zinger. Indifference creates mystery, and mystery creates value. So what does this actually mean? Well, the argument is that we live in an age of total overstimulation, right? Dating apps, social media, a million notifications going off 24/7. In a world like that, mystery is kind of the only thing that still stands out. When literally everyone is instantly accessible, being just a little bit out of reach suddenly becomes incredibly intriguing. To understand this perspective objectively, we'll break it down into 6 themes. The modern dating dilemma, mastering emotional discipline, prioritizing purpose over pursuit, the power of silence, the art of detachment, and finally, self-mastery, not manipulation. Let's get into it.
Part 1, the modern dating dilemma and the loss of mystery.
So the source paints a really stark contrast between two completely different approaches to dating. First up, you've got the nice guy strategy. The philosophy argues that giving constant attention, endless loyalty, and just unwavering emotional support actually makes a man super predictable. And eventually, that predictability just leads straight to boredom and pushes a partner away. But then on the flip side, we have the unaffected man strategy. This is all about staying grounded, keeping an air of mystery, and most importantly, not making a woman the absolute center of your universe. By projecting this unaffected vibe, it supposedly creates this compelling, almost magnetic unpredictability that modern women are just naturally drawn toward.
Part 2, mastering emotional discipline, revealing without unveiling. Think about your day-to-day dating behavior for a second. If a guy is constantly firing off good morning texts and just pouring his feelings into every single message the second he feels them, well, he becomes an open book, right? Zero room for curiosity. The argument here is that a man who limits that kind of emotional oversharing is actively building tension. Practicing emotional restraint means you take your time, you keep the conversations calm and light, and you let her imagination do the heavy lifting. The underlying premise is pretty simple. The second a woman feels she completely owns your emotional world, the chase is over.
Which brings us to this absolutely crucial point. Caring too loudly makes you common. Emotional discipline makes you rare. It's fascinating, right? Because withholding complete emotional vulnerability isn't framed as some toxic, manipulative game here. Instead, the source presents it as a really grounded display of self-control that protects your own energy. It's about having the emotional strength to feel things deeply, sure, but without that frantic, overwhelming urge to just blurt out every single thought the moment it enters your head. Moving on to part 3, prioritizing purpose over pursuit. The magnetism of a mission. According to the source, placing your life's purpose above your relationship is the ultimate way to command respect. Practically speaking, that means you absolutely do not drop your gym sessions or your career goals just to squeeze in a last-minute date. It means you aren't always playing cruise director and making every single plan. And you're definitely never endlessly available. By stepping back and letting her initiate, you're sending a crystal clear signal. She's joining a rich, awesome life you've already built, rather than suddenly becoming the center of it. And the philosophy actually leans heavily on ancient wisdom to back this up, quoting the Stoic philosopher Epictetus, who said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life." The source uses this to point out that constant, immediate availability can actually feel like a subtle form of control or neediness. But giving a woman the space to step up, that feels like freedom. It creates a dynamic where she's actively choosing to invest her time in you, rather than just passively receiving yours. Part 4, the power of silence, and absence as a strategy. Make absolutely no mistake about this. Silence isn't weakness. It's a strategy. In the modern dating scene, when you're faced with tests or sudden coldness or those classic emotional games, going quiet isn't just petty ghosting. Far from it. It's framed here as a quiet, strategic rejection of manipulation. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how pulling back entirely forces the other person to just sit there in their own discomfort? It makes them wonder where they stand. You're completely flipping the dynamic, and you didn't even have to raise your voice or start a fight to do it. To anchor this idea in classical Stoicism, the source brings in Marcus Aurelius.
The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injustice. By flat out refusing to send those double texts or get dragged into jealousy games, you're just refusing to play. You rise above that emotional immaturity with this grounded stillness that totally strips those manipulative tactics of their power. They become completely ineffective. Which brings us to a really profound psychological trigger. If she pulls back, or if she tests your boundaries, are you truly willing to walk away? The source argues that the exact second you fear losing the relationship, you have already lost control. Once your behavior is driven by fear, you start compromising your standards. And let's be honest, that kind of desperation is universally recognizable and it is universally unattractive. Part 5. The art of detachment and releasing the outcome. Okay, so this all boils down to two completely different energetic states that you can bring to a relationship. On one side, you have attached energy. This is when you feel pressured, you're constantly trying to manage her reactions, and everything you do is driven by this deep-seated fear of losing her. And honestly, that attached energy feels incredibly needy and suffocating. But on the other side, you have detached energy. This state is peaceful. It's magnetized. It is entirely grounded in your own internal value, completely independent of whether she approves of you or not. Because when your peace doesn't depend on her reaction, you inherently become incredibly attractive. Referencing Epictetus once again, the text reminds us it's not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. Your innate value as a person has absolutely nothing to do with whether you keep a specific partner. Truly internalizing that's the secret sauce that stops fear from driving your dating decisions. It empowers you to stop overgiving, stop chasing, and just let go of what you literally cannot control. It brings this profound sense of ease right back into your romantic life. Part 6. Self-mastery, not manipulation, emotional sovereignty. In this specific context, the source carefully redefines the word indifference. It is not about emotional absence, it's not apathy, and it's certainly not cruelty. It is emotional sovereignty. It's that rock-solid state of being unmoved, centered, and entirely free from the agonizing need for external validation. It's the calm confidence of a guy who doesn't fear loss simply because he never needed to cling in the first place. This state of being is presented as the ultimate form of attraction because it relies 100% on your own unshakable presence. So I want to leave you with one final provocative question straight from the core of this material. Will you continue begging for connection, or will you cultivate the self-mastery to become the connection? True attraction isn't built by relentlessly chasing someone else, it's built by doing the hard work of mastering yourself. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this deep dive helped you objectively grasp the fascinating arguments behind this modern dating philosophy. Until next time, keep learning and stay curious.